We get the entire profile of the microbiome in the patient down to the strain level. We are going after pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer. It's the biggest unmet need. It's extraordinary that the 2 million genes in your body are ignored by healthcare currently.
Onyx Live is proudly sponsored by Humphrey's Law and Panacea.
Thanks for taking the time to speak to me. My name is Paul Denslow. I'm the CEO of Intus Biosciences, and it's great to be here today with Onyx.
And what exactly are you working on at Intus Biosciences?
Intus Biosciences is focused on the microbiome. So we know for a long time, Hippocrates said 2,500 years ago that all disease begins in the gut, but actually today, even in conventional medicine, modern medicine, we're still missing that kind of fact. And that really boils down to the fact that the body is mainly bacterial. You have more bacterial cells than you do human cells, and you have vastly more bacterial genes than you have human genes. You have 22,000 human genes, roughly 2 million bacterial genes. And up until now, even though we know that exists and we know it's important, it hasn't played a role in healthcare because we haven't had the technology to see it. There's lots of companies out there offering tests, but they're very low resolution tests, and it's kept gut health fuzzy and really inactionable. But we've developed a whole new platform, Sample to Answer. It combines new science, it combines the latest NGS, next generation sequencing technology, and AI to finally unlock and make the microbiome actionable.
So what kinds of things are you testing for specifically, and how does that benefit patients?
Well, the best thing is we don't test for anything specifically. We basically give you a profile of the entire microbiome. So you have to see everything to really have a microbiome test or technology. If you're targeted, if you've got a database, if you're just looking for specific bacteria, you could be missing the important part. So you have to start by getting everything, and you've got to get it with accuracy, and you've got to get it with detail, which means strain level. So that's where we start. We get the entire profile of the microbiome in the patient down to the strain level, and then if we aggregate lots and lots of patients or into a cohort with a disease state, then you can apply the AI to start comparing the patients with the disease to the normals, and then from that you start to find these biomarkers or combinations of biomarkers which can then be developed into diagnostics and, more importantly, early detection tools, and more importantly still, prevention tools. Healthcare today is very focused on when you get sick, you get diagnosed when you get sick, you get treated when you get sick, and you're basically treated as if the disease is kind of the root cause of the problem, when really there's a root cause before that driving the disease. And that's where all of this is going, and where we're focused. So it's a fantastic technology, and it's producing incredible breakthroughs. But in terms of specific indications, we are going after pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer. We're working with folks at Johns Hopkins, at Harvard, MD Anderson on those specific diseases. And then also today, you can actually order a test powered by our technology at GutID.com. And that's available in the UK and the US, and you can get your own microbiome profile and see if you're in some form of dysbiosis or have some form of imbalance in your gut bacteria.
Could you give us an idea of the kind of data that's validated your platform?
So think of this in terms of first of all, as a data production platform. So that's what our secret sauce is. We can produce this very high resolution data. So that's very, very simple to validate, because basically you have a control sample where you know what the contents of that control sample are, and then you apply your platform to it and make sure that across multiple samples you get recurring, consistent results which reflect what you know to be the content of that sample. And then beyond that, we then have these 45 publications covering multiple applications and multiple confirmations of the actual technology doing what we say it can do. And then additionally, GutID has been validated to a lab-developed test standard, which is a very rigorous clinical laboratory standard to get the test through, to make sure that it actually does what it says it does. It has the repeatability and the reliability that we promise. So it's a wellness test, but it's been validated to that LDT standard here in the States. So the data that comes off the platform is incredibly well validated and substantiated. And then these extra layers of analysis, as we go and start looking to develop microbiome-based diagnostics, will really be the world's first in that regard. That's when we'll have to do kind of more conventional studies, trials, validation, etc., to prove that.
How has your JPM been going so far? Who have you been speaking to?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. So there's a lot of interest today in personalized medicine, preventative medicine, AI-powered solutions, platform solutions. Everybody kind of knows the gut is this kind of big opportunity which just hasn't been realized. So there's a lot of investor demand, had multiple investor meetings, a huge amount of interest in that space. And then also various other folks who are in the kind of ecosystem of functional health, preventative health, integrative health, have also reached out and expressed a lot of interest as well.
If I can explore a bit further, the gut microbiome, it's linked so deeply to food, and we have this wider political context regarding MAHA and this real examination of the ultra-processed foods in our society. How closely does that tie in with what you're focusing on?
100%. I mean, it really does, because at the end of the day, between processed food and disease outcomes, what is the mechanism, what's the middleman, so to speak, in that process? And of course, it is the microbiome plays a big role in that. So when you're eating, you're feeding yourself, you're feeding your microbiome, and the worse the food you eat, the worse your microbiome becomes. So MAHA, obviously that's kind of a political movement as well as kind of a healthcare movement as well. But on the healthcare side, which is where it is very, very interested in preventative health, in nutrition, in people not getting sick and people not taking pharmaceuticals, this lines up extremely well. And there's a lot of interest from that side of the healthcare spectrum as well.
Fantastic. And so what is your main message to investors this week?
Well, we have, so two messages. One is not to have too big a message, because unfortunately or fortunately, if you've unlocked the microbiome, or wherever the microbiome plays a role, you have that many applications. So you can suddenly find yourself talking about a lot of different things, because this is going in many different directions. But really the main message to investors is again, it's the biggest unmet need. It's extraordinary that the 2 million genes in your body are ignored by healthcare currently. And so whichever company solves that problem, and we really have the evidence that it's us, we're in the process of doing that, it opens up an enormous opportunity for any investor. And we really see ourselves very much as at the forefront and the future of medicine.
And finally, what would you say the sentiment is in the biotech industry compared to this time last year?
I've definitely seen an increase in sentiment, without a doubt. I mean, we had a couple of 2 or 3 years of, where we had back in 2020, 21, 22, there was obviously a lot of excess in terms of funding. There's a lot of checks being written, which perhaps didn't quite have the due diligence perhaps required. And we're starting to see now, then we kind of tailed off very quickly, and now we're seeing sentiment really coming back. And there's a lot of very interesting technologies out there. We're very much one of those technologies, and you're seeing real interest from investors. And I think we'll see a lot of deals done in the year ahead.
I certainly hope so. Paul, thank you so much for your time today.
Likewise,
really
appreciate it.
Appreciate
Nice to see you.